Gonna try, gonna try, gonna try. Work till I die, till I die, till I die. I'm gonna fail and get up, cause I'm not giving up on my dream.
Hi my lovely Frosty fam, it's me, Karen Frost here at Nail Decadence, and I've got another acrylic video to share with you. Welcome to my channel, welcome one and all, and you may have noticed it's Friday, whoop whoop. I've changed my upload schedule from Mondays and Thursdays to Tuesdays and Fridays. That way I'm not having to try and get any editing done at the weekend, and then I can have, you know, my family time. So that's just to make it a bit easier on me. Hope you guys don't mind too much. So yeah, from now on the upload schedule should be Tuesdays and Fridays, and I'm going to do my best to try and stick to it. I haven't managed to get ahead of things and get things scheduled yet, but I do plan on doing that. So today is actually Friday and I'm uploading voicing over the same day, but yeah, I want to get scheduled videos up again, so I'm going to try and get that done over for next week, you know, that kind of thing. Anywho, in this video, as you saw, I'm using my acrylic coloured powders, that blue one that I mixed myself. If you're interested, like it said on the screen, there's a link in the cards to a video on how I mix my own coloured acrylic powders. That glitter mix is really beautiful. I can't remember where I got it from because there's no label on the bag, and then you can see all the other bits and bobs that I'm using. I'm also using my wonderful Handolly, and if you are interested in getting yourself a realistic silicone practice hand, do check out handolly.co.uk, and you can use my code FROST10 for a discount on your order. This is actually a seconds Handolly, so it comes with flaws, but they're a cheaper price and they're an absolute bargain. So do keep an eye out for seconds dollies. They'll be listed on the website as seconds with flaws in them, but they're still absolutely fine to use. They're just not completely perfect. So, but I mean, I love them, and I don't care if they've got flaws. They still look amazing if you ask me. But yeah, choice is yours. Anywho, so I'm going to be ballying the thin clear base, as you saw. So I've got a thin layer of clear acrylic on the base of the nails. This is for many reasons. It's to protect the natural nail from any staining, because some acrylic powders are very, very pigmented and they can stain the natural nail. So that's one reason to use a clear thin base. The other main reason I use it is because if you want to file back and do a redesign, you know when you've hit that thin clear base that you're right near the natural nail, and so you can stop filing and know that you're not going to hit that natural nail. The other really big reason I use it is because when you're doing your nails every 2 to 3 weeks and you are removing the set completely, if you're doing soak offs and stuff, that means that you're actually preparing that natural nail over and over and over and over. So by the time that the new growth area reaches the free edge, it will have been prepped numerous times. Nails are not very thick, you know, look at your nail, it's not very thick. Now if you're removing a few layers every single time that you're prepping that nail, it's going to be extremely thin by the time it reaches that free edge. So if you apply your thin clear base and you only file down to that, leave that remaining on the nail and only prep the regrowth area, that means that your nail is going to be a much stronger and much more healthy nail because it's not constantly being prepped. You're only prepping the new regrowth area, if that makes sense. So are you following me? I hope you're following me. By leaving that thin clear base on, you are totally protecting that natural nail, and there's absolutely no reason for you to remove that thin clear base unless it's lifted or there's something lurking underneath it, like some greenies. That's the other reason for doing a thin clear base, because if you're using a cover pink without a thin clear base and you file down and do a redesign and you're not actually filing off all of that cover pink, you may not notice what's hiding underneath, and there could be some problems underneath the acrylic that you're not aware of because you're not filing down to because you don't have a thin clear base. You're not going to see it if you're leaving some of that cover pink on. You're not going to see any issues that may be underneath that acrylic. So a thin clear base has so many reasons. Plus it's a strength powder, plus it's the cheapest powder, plus it has the best adhesion properties out of all the acrylics because it has no pigmentation in it. It is the best that's going to stick and hold onto that nail plate more than a coloured powder would. So those are all the reasons why we apply a thin clear base every single time we do a set of nails, whether it's polygel, whether it's acrylic, whether it's hard gel. Always put on the thin clear base. That is essential in my opinion. So now that I've rambled on about that and explained that in great detail, we'll get on with the set of nails. So as you can see, I'm only using that one colour, the blue. It's a really pretty blue. Do you like this blue? I like this blue. Anyway, it's nice, bright and sort of borderline electric blue. Oh, it's lovely. So as you can see, I'm trying to keep this set nice and simple for you guys. I did promise that I would do some more simple sets, so I hope you like this one. I've kept it really simple on this one. So you've got a ombre, that's going to be a glitter ombre on the index finger. I've got the 2 full nails of the blue on the middle fingers, and on the little finger we're going to do a full nail of the glitter. So all I'm doing at the moment is applying that blue for colour purposes only. Absolutely only for colour. I will cap in clear, and that's when I will add my strength. And like I said, clear being the cheapest of acrylic powders, as if I'm not building my nail in the coloured powders, which are not always strength powders, as I'm saving myself a few pennies and my colours are going to last a bit longer because I'm building the nail in the clear. So just get yourself a big pot of clear and cap everything in clear acrylic. That way your coloured powders will last you a lot longer. So on the little finger, as you can see, I just placed a very thin wash of the blue on the little finger first, so that acts as a background, so you won't see any gaps in between the glitter, because I didn't want any gaps. I mean, I could have left it clear and had a sort of clear tip, but I'm doing that on the index finger, so I wanted a full blue background on this finger to just accent the glitter. But yeah, choice is yours. You don't have to put the blue background if you wanted a clear nail. Because I've used clear tips, you can have a clear nail. Anyway, so what I'm using is just tiny beads of clear acrylic to pick up that raw glitter, and then I'll nudge it in place on the nail, get it the way I want it to go, make sure everything is sitting nice and flush, because those stars are quite large, and there's a couple of large hexagons in there as well. You want to make sure they're sitting flat on the nail, that way you can encapsulate them and know that you're not going to file into the glitter. So I'm using really, really tiny beads of clear acrylic, wet beads of clear acrylic to apply that, because I'm not trying to add any bulk whilst I'm adding the glitter. The clear acrylic is literally just to stick them in place. It acts as a glue, so you don't want to put loads of clear acrylic on at this point. You just want enough that will stick the glitter pieces in place so that they don't move when you go to cap. That's all that's acting as. So think of it as a glue, so you only need a very small amount, just wet tiny beads of clear acrylic. That's all you need to stick the glitters on with. Really like this mix. It's a really nice mix, and these little stars are adorable, aren't they? Really cute. This set looks more wintry, doesn't it? Kind of gives me frost vibes. You know, frozen vibes. That's what I meant, not frost vibes. Gives me kind of frozen vibes. All you need is some snowflakes, and it will totally look like frost vibes. Mind you, the way I did the crystal placement, it kind of looks like a bit like a snowflake. Actually, thinking of it, I did a star, but it kind of looks like a snowflake. Snowflakes have 6 points on it though, so you can tell it's not a snowflake, but it does kind of look like a snowflake. Anyway, so yeah, I'm just faffing around with the glitter, making sure I've got all the bits of glitter I want. I wanted to make sure it had a bit of white in the on that finger as well, because got 3 of the white hexagons on the little finger, so I need to make sure there was a white hexagon on this finger. Anyway, doesn't matter. So now I'm going to cap the glitter and cap all the other nails as well. So placing that bead, it's a quite larger bead, placing it in the middle of the nail and then bringing it over the free edge and covering all of that glitter, patting it in place, getting it as smooth as I can. Now you'll see that I have built the sides out, so the tips were actually much more narrow. This is a technique that you can use if you actually are not you don't want the tips to be as narrow. You can build the sides out so that you get more of a tapered square rather than a really narrow ballerina. If I hadn't built out the sides, they would have been much slimmer. I wanted to add a lot of glitter, so I decided to change the shape of the nails slightly, just to build them out a little bit wider, so I got more of a tapered square as opposed to a narrow ballerina. It's not difficult to do. You literally just have to add more acrylic on the sides, and when you swipe it very gently on the sides so that you're not actually removing it off the sides. Normally what you want to do is you want to, as you're applying your acrylic, swipe the sides quite firmly so that you're keeping the shape of the nail. On this occasion I wasn't trying to do that, so I wasn't as firm as I normally would be with swiping the sides. It's a cool technique to use if you want to say you ran out of square tips and you only had narrow ballerina tips. This is how you can adjust the tips to get a tapered square. So yeah, it's just another technique that I thought I would share with you guys. I wanted it to just be wider so that I could add more glitter at the end of the day. That's just, yeah, that's where I was going with it. So as I'm capping the nail, I will be looking at it from all different angles. I'll look at it down the barrel, I'll look at it from each side profile, I'll look at it from the bird's eye view, move the finger around and look at it from all different angles, because if you remain using the bird's eye view, you won't see any low areas. You have to turn the nail and look at it so that you can see where there is more acrylic needed. You want to make sure your apex is in that back third because you want a nice strong nail. Now these nails are long, so they need a decent apex. However, your apex does not need to be massive. You can have an apex that isn't huge as long as it is in the right place on the nail. So just bear that in mind. So as you saw, I've applied that bead in the middle of the nail, starting right near that back third, bringing that down the nail, and then not enough came down to the very free edge on the tip, so I added another bead to make sure my tip has enough acrylic there. Now you want it to be slightly thicker, and I mean absolutely slightly thicker than you want the nail to be, so that you've got enough room to file. If you make it exactly the thickness you want the final nail to be, well then when you file it, it's going to be too thin. So you want a slight, like, millimeter of acrylic that acts as your margin for filing. Okay, that way you know you can file and shape the nail and it's not going to be too thin. Yeah, I hope I'm making sense. So then I add my cuticle bead and build that apex in the back third, get that cuticle nice and neat. When I place that cuticle bead, I'm pulling down the front of the bead, not the entire bead, because I want the majority of that bead to remain in the back third as my apex, to act as my strength. Now I'll take a look at the nail from all different angles again and make sure that there is enough acrylic. Now as you saw, I needed a bit more on the side there. That's because I had, like I said, I had built these out to be wider than the tips actually were, because I was going for more of a tapered square as opposed to narrow ballerina. So on that little finger, I first applied a very wet bead over the glitter so that it really seeps in and around all of those glitter pieces, and that way I know that I won't get any air pockets. So that's a good trick to do when you're encapsulating things, is just put a thin wash of the clear acrylic on first, then go in with your capping layer, just to make sure that you don't have any air pockets. It really does help with encapsulating things. It's definitely a good trick to use. And then yeah, I decided to work from top down on this nail. After I'd put that clear wash on, I started with my cuticle bead, added my apex, and then did the middle of the nail, and then worked on the tip. And then I'll stop and look as usual, look at all of the nails together, and if any of them are a little bit low, I will add some more acrylic. Now this nail seemed a bit narrower than the other ones, so as you can see, I'm building those sides out so that it matches the other nails. Always stop and look at your nails before you put your stuff away. Make sure that they are all looking similar. You don't want one nail to be a different shape to all the others, unless that's what you're going for. Say you wanted, you know, the ring finger to be a stiletto, you know, obviously that's different. That's if you're going for that vibe. But if you want all the nails to have the same shape, you have to stop and look and make sure that they are all the same shape. Well, they won't be exact, but as close to all the same shape as you can possibly get. Again, I stopped and looked and just compared it to the other nails, and it just needed just a little bit more on the side there to make sure it had the same width as the other ones. There we go. Happy with that. So now it's time to file. So filing time. Are you a frosty filing freak? Oh yes, we're going to file. If you're not interested in filing, you can skip ahead to that timestamp in the corner of the screen, and yeah, go ahead to the next portion of the video. But for my frosty filing freaks, here we go. For my filing routine for this set, I decided to start with the cuticle area, and as you can see, I've got a small cuticle bit, or it's a undernail cleaner. I'm going around that cuticle area, making sure it is nice and flush to the natural nail. You don't want any steps or a lip or anything. You want it to be flush with the natural nail, so that when it grows out, it's not going to get caught in your hair or anything like that. You won't be able to feel it. It will be totally flush with the natural nail, so that it looks a lot neater when it's growing out. So always make sure you seal that cuticle area. Now I'm going to use my hand file and refine the side walls and the free edge. So I do the under arch, rotate the file up, do the side wall, and then do the other side. So whatever file, I have many different filing routines. It depends literally on how my hands are feeling on that occasion, on that day. But whatever filing routine I use, I will stick throughout that entire set. So with this filing routine, I'm not going to stop and switch into a different filing routine halfway through. I'm going to stick with it on each and every nail. That way I know that all my nails will turn out very similar. If I was to do a different routine on two of the nails, and then do the original routine on the other two nails, you would see a difference because your routine has changed. A routine is really important. I can't stress that enough. I never used to have a full filing routine. I just filed haphazardly. But once I got myself a routine, I noticed a huge difference in the quality of my nails. They just looked so much more uniform and much more similar. It makes a big difference. So please get yourself a filing routine, whatever filing routine you go with, whether you start with the free edge first or you start with the body of the nail first, whatever it is you choose to do, just stick with it through all the fingers of that set, and I promise it will make a big difference. I hope you can't hear my tummy rumbling. That was a bit loud. Anyway, so I've finished doing the side walls and the free edge there, and I've got a extra fine 5-in-1 bit on my e-file, and I'm just going to debulk ever so slightly and refine the shape of the nails. Now, if you've applied your acrylic well enough, you shouldn't have too much filing to do, so you should only be refining and not really debulking too much. If you're having to debulk a lot, it means you've just applied too much acrylic, and it does happen sometimes. We get a bit carried away and we apply too much acrylic, but try to only just give yourself like a millimetre margin to file into. You don't want to be filing forever. I like watching filing. I hate doing filing, and most people hate doing filing. Not a lot of people actually enjoy doing the filing. I mean, not saying that people don't enjoy doing filing. Some people really do, but the majority of people that I've come across hate doing filing but don't mind watching it. And if you don't want to have to do loads and loads of filing, then you really need to get your application on point. Yes, you can save yourself with a hand file for bad application, but you don't want to get into the habit of bad application, because that's not going to help you. Do as much as you can with your brush, so you've got less to do with your file. That's the only advice I can give you there. Now, as you can see, I am literally just smoothing, because this bit is it's an extra fine bit. You can see how smooth it's making that nail. It's not really leaving too many dips and divots and file lines in the nail. It's a really good bit, actually. I enjoyed using this. So just making sure that free edge is credit card thickness, or maybe a little bit thinner. And yeah, I'm not removing the apex, I'm just blending the cuticle area into the apex. Also, those harsh angles that I filed into this side walls, we want to blend that into the rest of the nail and contour it. You don't want to keep those harsh edges on the side walls. You want to blend that in to the nail. So I'm using that e-file bit to help contour that nail. I wanted to sharpen up the shape of the nails a bit more, so I'm using a hand file again just to go around the side walls and the free edge, and I'm just removing some frills from underneath the nail as well. I hate those little frills that get underneath the nail. They're so annoying. I always have to remove them. I can't stand those little bits underneath the nail. I have to get them off. Ugh, they're so annoying. So yeah, do check underneath your nails and remove any of the little frills that can roll underneath your nail. Get them out. Don't leave them, especially if you're working on a client. Don't leave that there. It's annoying to your client and it's going to make them pick. So make sure you remove those. So as you see, I stop and look at the nails. I file a little bit, I stop and look at the nails. I'm making sure that I'm keeping the shape all the same, because I don't want to make one more narrow than the others. I want to make sure that it's a uniform set. That's what you're going for. Each nail, you don't look at each nail as just an individual. You look at it as a set. It is a set of nails, so you want uniformity across the board. So once I'm happy with that, I will just whiz over with a sanding band rather than using the hand file to go over the body of the nail and smooth it out and make sure that it's all nice and contoured and there aren't any demarcations from that extra fine bit. So yeah, just smooth the nail out, because you can do this with a buffing file, you can do it with the sanding band, you can do it with a 180 file. Whatever you choose to do it with, just make sure you're contouring and smoothing that nail so that when you go to top coat, it's going to look lovely. And you don't have any lumps and bumps and you don't have any file lines. That's what we're going for. See, contouring those bits that I filed on the side. See, blending that in. Then I'll go around that cuticle area, blend that into the apex, make sure that that has a nice slope to it, and then down the body of the nail, smoothing as I go, making sure that that harsh angle on the sides is blended and contoured in, so I've got a nice semicircle from sidewall to sidewall. When you look down the barrel of the nail, you want to see a nice semicircle like this. So you're looking down the barrel, so from sidewall to sidewall it should look like that, just a beautiful semicircle shape. That's what you're going for. A beautifully contoured nail is just Oh, chef's kiss. Mwah, just, oh, love it. It's sexy. Get yourself some sexy nails by getting your contouring right. And again, make sure that free edge is no thicker than a credit card. I cannot abide a thick free edge. I think it looks horrible, and it makes life harder because it makes it much more difficult to pick things up. If you're making your free edge too thick, you won't be able to pick up coins or anything if it's too thick. So do make sure it is no thicker than a credit card, preference just a little bit thinner, and it just makes living with nails that little bit more comfortable, and aesthetically it's much more pleasing for it not to be an extra thick free edge. So yeah, almost finished with that filing, blending, contouring. But because I'm using a fine sanding band, I don't necessarily need to use a buffing block afterwards. So that's pretty cool. The choice is yours. You can still buff over if you really want the nail to be super smooth. But if you're using a fine sanding band, you don't necessarily have to buff over. So I'm taking one final look at the nails, and if anything needs adjusting, I will do it now, because I don't want to get to the top coat bit and then think, oh, I need to file that a little bit more, and then have to do it, get the dust collector out and e-file out and file it again and remove the dust again. Yeah, that will be annoying. Don't want to do that. So make sure you take a final look at the nails before you finish. And as you saw there, I just used a buffing file to go underneath the free edge, just to make sure no frills are underneath there, because like I said, I cannot abide them. One last look at the nails just to make sure, remove the dust, and now it's time to bling it, baby. So Handolly's had a wash with some soap. After you've washed and dried the Handolly and the nails, you want to wipe the nails over with a lint-free wipe and some rubbing alcohol or some acetone to remove any oils. Soaps have oils in them, so you want to make sure you remove that before you top coat, so that your top coat can adhere properly to the acrylic. If you do wipe over with acetone, it will slightly melt the top layer of that acrylic, so you won't see the scratch marks as much, because you can see the scratch marks, the filing marks. If you wipe over with acetone, you won't see them as much, but once you top coat, you don't really see them anyway. So the choice is yours, whether you want to sort of use the acetone to melt away some of those scratch marks, or if you just leave them as is and just use some rubbing alcohol. Choice is yours. Anyway, so we're adding the crystals now. I put that little star on because I thought it would match the stars in the glitter mix, and I didn't want to just leave it just as a one random star on the nail, so I decided to go round it with some of the crystals, and then I ended up putting more and more and more. You know what I'm like, once I start, I can't help myself. I didn't really have a plan in mind on the crystal placement. I was making it up as I go along, as usual. You know me. So I add some of the diamond gel. I love this stuff from SBD London. It's brilliant for holding your crystals on. So yeah, I'll add some of that. I'll put some crystals on, and when I'm happy with the placement, I will flash cure them so that they don't move. But until I flash cure them, as you can see, I can nudge them around as much as I like, as long as I like, because I know that then it's not going to set up before I cure it. That's the beauty of using a gel to adhere your crystals as opposed to a glue. The glue sets in place very, very quickly, and you can't really nudge your placement around, whereas with the gel you can nudge it around as much as you like. And that's why I really like using the gel, because I'm a fussy moo, and yeah, it's much harder to place crystals for me using glue as opposed to just using the diamond gel. So as you can see, like I said, I went around that star, and it now looks a bit more like a snowflake. Don't you think it looks like a snowflake? I really do. But like I said, it is 5-pointed and snowflakes are 6-pointed, so it's technically not a snowflake. It just looks a little bit like one. Anyway, so I'm also adding some crystals on the ring finger to act as the middle part of a flower, because I'm going to do some 3D work. But before I do the 3D work, it's time to top it off and keep it tough. Oh yeah, let's bring those nails to life. Look at that glitter. Isn't that lush? I love this glitter mix. It's so cool. I'm sorry I don't know where I got it from, but it's a really nice mix. So I will go around the crystals with the top coat. I don't want to go over them. If you go over your crystals, you will lose the facets, and that's what makes them sparkle. So you don't want to go over the crystals, just go around them. And I will use a detail brush to go around them properly. But for now, I will just top coat all of the nails roughly, and I'll go into detail with the other one once I've finished top coating all of them. And look look at those hollow stars. Aren't they gorgeous? I really like those stars. They're so pretty. Anyway, so yeah, I'm going to get my detailer out now and go around all of those areas where I couldn't reach with that brush from the bottle, securing those crystals, because you butt the top coat right up against them, just not over the top of them. So yeah, I'll go around, make sure there's enough top coat so that it sort of shrink wraps them, as it were. Get any off the skin. If you've managed to get any on the skin, get it off before you cure it in the lamp. So I will let that cure for 60 seconds. And now we're going to do some 3D work. So I'm using this pretty putty stuff from SBD London. It's really cool stuff to work with, because it doesn't, again, this is something that has to be cured in the lamp. So you've got enough time to play with it. It's not like when you do acrylic flowers. You can mess with this stuff as long as you like before you cure it in the lamp, because it's not going to set up until you cure it in the lamp. So if you want to practice your 3D work, using this stuff will help you a lot, because it's very similar to working with acrylic, but you have much more time to really pat your petals out. I didn't want the flowers to stand out as much. I wanted it to be more subtle. So as you saw, I kind of mixed the two putties together. So that I didn't totally mix them together so that it all became one colour. So it does have some variation in colour, but it's a bit more mixed together. So that I don't know, it's just the look I was going for. If you want the petals to stand out much more, but you still want them to be two-tone, don't mix it as much as I did. Because you saw when I first put it on the nail, you could see the two different colours much more. Don't take it off and mix them up more if you're going for the more stand out look. If you just want the two colours to be really unmixed. I can't think of the words I want to use, but you know what I mean. If you don't want to see if you want to be able to see each colour individually as opposed to it being almost mixed together, then don't mix it as much as I did. You see how I was rubbing it round and round on my palette there. Also, don't use your fingers to roll it into a ball. This is still uncured product, and you don't want that on your skin. So if you want to use your fingers to roll it into a ball, please wear some gloves, because at the end of the day, this is uncured product, and you don't want to end up with contact dermatitis, especially if you're practicing a lot. You don't want that in contact with your bare skin. So do it the way I'm doing it, or use a gloved finger or gloved hands. So yeah, I'll just pat and press that using some of the SBD London slip solution, which smells divine. It smells like baby powder. I've said it a million times, but I'll keep saying it. It smells so nice. It's lovely, and the smell remains for a good 2 to 3 weeks. It's crazy. I don't know how, but it's just, I love that stuff. It's amazing. So, and also this putty is very easy to work with, as you can see. So what I did first of all is use the silicone tool to just pat it out a little bit, and then use my brush to really refine that petal shape. You can do any petal shape you fancy. I did pointy petals. It's up to you how you want to do it. I'll just pat them in place, and there wasn't quite enough. It was a bit too flat, so I'm just adding just a tiny bit more of the putty onto the nail, and again using my silicone tool to just nudge that and press it down into place, and then I'll use my brush to pat and shape that petal exactly how I want it. And because I've flash cured the other petals, I don't have to worry about disturbing them. Always flash cure them so that you know that they are set and hard, so that when you add your next petal next to it, you're not going to disturb that previous petal. And then once I've finished, I will cure it all for 60 seconds for a full cure. When I've finished faffing, that is. So I'm just using some of the slip solution on my brush to wash off the nail, so that any of the residue or any of this sticky stuff is no longer on the nail. Get that off. Then I will cure it for 60 seconds. I'll use a lint-free wipe, remove the tacky layer from the Pretty Putty, and that's it. This is the finished design. So I hope you've enjoyed it. Thank you ever so much for coming to my channel, spending some of your most precious time with me. Thank you. I appreciate you ever so much. If you have enjoyed this video, please go ahead and click that like button if it's helped you in any way, shape or form. Do click it. It takes but a second to do, and it really helps my channel out. If you have not done so already, please go ahead and click that subscribe button. Join the Frosty Fam. I'd love to have you. And if you feel like it, you are more than welcome to leave me a comment. So that is all I have for this time, peeps. You take care now, and I'll speak to you all again very, very soon. Bye for now.
Someday soon, I'm gonna make it. Yeah.